what your plan for it is?
Very quickly, because I sense we're getting a hurry up. Is that right? 5 minutes. Oh, okay. It's going to be curated as well as created content. So we're going to have a senior editor based out here. We're going to have a reporter. We're going to build it organically. It's going to be very digital, mobile, and face-to-face. So print is not really a part of this. You know, there's not many people out there launching print brands these days. So that's the theory behind it. It's going to be about that whole innovation culture, content, big ideas, you know, that drive the content and innovation, how startups are telling their stories, just reflecting the excitement about business on the West Coast particularly, which frankly, you know, is not there in as much on the East Coast. And it's great to be out here to spend some time amongst people who are genuinely excited about what they're doing, and everybody's talking about business. You know, it's everyone's hobby as well as their day job. So we want to reflect that excitement, but curate it and build a community. That's why it's called the Hub, you know. And we want to create content that's going to go viral, that's going to be shared, that is going to be created by us, but that is also demonstrating the best of the web out there and having interesting bloggers and columnists and people contributing to it. So it's going to be a community. That's what we're trying to create now.
Just to add to that, and in support of Steve and the Hub, so I've been banging on to Steve for ages about, so I'm not, as I said, I've been in PR and communications 20 years, set up Beyond, and now most of our clients are, you know, they're on the marketing side. So I've always been saying to Steve, you know, I don't care about PR, we don't sell to PR and communications people, and Steve tells me it's not just PR and communications people who read PR Week. I must say, I do think, you know, what Steve is doing with the Hub is like hugely important for the PR industry and helping, you know, PR people get into the sorts of budgets that are being held by the marketing people. So I'm a huge fan of what he's doing, so I would just like to add that, and also to thank Steve for coming along and doing this at very short notice, so I really appreciate that.
Thank you. I mean, PR Week is not going away. There's still a big, you know, we mustn't sacrifice communications on the altar of marketing, you know. It's the sort of big story du jour. And, you know, there's still going to be a need for very smart communications counsel, corporate reputation, investment, CSR work, internal communications. Yeah, PR is not going away. But the Hub is going to be aimed at communicators, but also marketers and people who are in communications that probably wouldn't even call themselves that, you know, but who are essentially in communications. So it's kind of sitting between the tech blogs and the mainstream business press. We're not really interested in talking about the latest product launch, but we might be interested in how they're telling that story. So it's looking through a communications and marketing lens, and we feel there's a little gap in the market in the middle there, you know, that is, technology's kind of underpinning it, but it's not a tech blog, you know, it's a communications and marketing blog.
So I have a PR agency in San Jose, we're headquartered in San Jose in the Valley, and we see very different regional differences in terms of what we are able to partner with our clients. Can you talk a little bit about some of the regional differences in terms of the PR, in terms of the kind of that content strategy, and what industries right now do you see kind of emerging as those PR dollars start to open back up?
I'm not sure I can really talk about regional differences actually, but I can talk about sort of, you know, which the second part of the question I think is where are the sort of, you know, the leading edge in innovation coming, what sort of sectors. We definitely probably do more of our, or probably about 60% of our work is on the consumer side, and I definitely feel as though the consumer space is the place where, you know, a lot of innovation is happening in sort of content marketing. And I think just to use a really extreme example of sort of content marketing is, you know, I think it's easy to think of content marketing, you know, you publish content. I think the next wave is sort of brands as a utility, and brands creating, you know, things, experiences, applications that are genuinely useful in people's everyday lives. And I think the most obvious example of that is Nike Plus. It's, you know, it's essentially Nike as a publisher of an application to help you in your daily life and help get you fitter or whatever it is. So I think there's some really interesting things coming down the pipe with brands as sort of creators of utilities. We're working with a very big consumer brand at the moment in that very space, and it's what they're thinking, and it wasn't our idea, is phenomenal about something that will fundamentally help and change people's lives. And for that to come out of the sort of the comms team is just so exciting. And I think it's a sort of idea that wouldn't necessarily have come out of the sort of marketing and advertising side of the business. So that's where I see a lot of that sort of innovation, definitely in the consumer side. I think American Express I've got huge admiration for what American Express are doing. I think they do some amazing things. And in a way, financial services is the last place you'd expect innovation to come from, but they're certainly doing some really cool stuff. But certainly consumer and consumer retail, I think some really interesting stuff happening.
So David, in closing this up, what would you say are the 2 or 3 takeaways from this topic that people can sort of look forward to as you give this longer presentation at PR Summit, and also what's endeavored to the subject matter?
Okay, I'll go first. So the first thing I would say is, as Sean said, so I'm doing a sort of longer form workshop at the PR Disrupt conference or the summit in 30th and 31st of July. And one of the things I'm doing there is showing how you can find things out and use data like never before to understand what content is going to work for you. So I think how you use data is a really huge part of it. I think the other part of it is how you can use a sort of combination of paid and owned to build audiences around the content that you're creating is probably the second big thing. And I think how you use sort of some of the paid and owned channels. You've got things like Flipboard. They're doing some really cheap ways to create a Flipboard channel that is a really powerful way of reaching a specific audience. And there's lots of other sort of technologies and tools like Outbrain which help you do the same thing. So using technology to build audiences around your content is something that we'll be talking a lot about.
I would say that anyone can do content, but doing great content is very difficult, and it's not necessarily cheap, but it has it can produce great benefits. So don't underestimate the effort and what goes into creating good content. I echo Dave's point about peso. So the content doesn't exist in a vacuum. It has to be surrounded by strategy in paid media, in owned media, and shared media as well. So make it part of a strategy, not a standalone strategy. And I had a third one, but I've completely forgotten it. Subscribe to the Hub is a good one. Yeah, that would definitely help you. But it's not going away. What I was going to say was use smart analytics and data up front to come up with your strategy, and then to demonstrate the effectiveness of it afterwards. Yeah. So those are my 3 points, 3 takeaways.